took a party of 60 children to see Leslie at the end of January, and the children were so impressed with him because we were doing this pantomime topic. They said, perhaps, would I write off and see whether Leslie would be willing to come and visit the school? And I did, and he accepted and came in this week, which was really good of him because he's very busy this week with 2 shows every day, and not like the other weeks when he's only been doing the occasional matinee, so we're very, very grateful indeed.
What sort of course are the students actually involved in, the ones that are studying pantomime?
Well, the younger children just doing it in drama and looking at caricature and that kind of thing, but the older children, who were mainly at this event, have been doing a study for the last 6 months on mass media. And we've already explored radio and its sort of potential in mass media, and now we're looking at comedians and pantomime in particular as a form of entertainment.
And what do you think the students perhaps gain from such a visit?
Well, in lots of ways. In writing, for example, they all write letters thanking the artist concerned, which is a far more sort of profitable exercise than writing to an aunt that doesn't exist in an exercise book. But also we have a school newspaper and a number of children involved in writing for that. Plus we do a lot of display work, and we find that these kinds of visits, which are only occasional, certainly motivate the children in creative and imaginative writing.
And I understand Leslie's also involved in opening a new association today.
Yes, we've launched today a Past Students Association where we hope children young people who were at Arden School will come along and join it. We're going to have an occasional sporting activity and an annual dinner and dance, and we hope to gain contact with some students that have left who'd like just to come back occasionally and see us all.
Well, all the students this morning at the Arden School, Station Road in Knoll, were all dressed up in costume. Why?
Well, because we're sort of characters out of the pantomime, which Leslie Crowther played in at the Alexandra, and we thought it would be more sort of home-like.
What has Leslie been talking to you about tonight?
Well, mainly about his career and school life and things like that.
And are you involved in this project that you're doing at the moment on pantomime?
Well, we did a bit of drama on pantomimes. We had to think up of one of the pantomimes and play it out to Jarvis.
Probably do a bit in our English lessons.
Which part of the show particularly impressed you?
Well, I'm a musical person, so I liked watching all the music being played.
Was it a full orchestra or?
Yes. Which one was it that played the trombone? I can't remember which one it was now. But he's very good.
Jimmy Edwards, was it?
Yeah, and he only plays one bit, and that's very good. And the other trombone in the orchestra plays the rest. And I like that.
What about the project that you're doing at the moment at school?
Well,
what other things are you
I'm
getting
going to write up some stories for the Arden News, which comes out every month. We've got to work on that now.
The Arden News, their own school newspaper. Good news, that I should think for them. I wonder who the editor is. We shall have to see. Well, of course, it was Leslie Crowther that was down there in Knoll this morning. What did he think of it all?
Well, it's a very good idea because, to start with, it gives the people who are undecided at school as to what they want to do, what they might like to avoid, or what they might like to follow up, or whatever. I think it's a super idea.
Have you found it's done you some good, having to sort of perhaps reappraise what you're doing for a living? Have other people about it?
It's always good to talk about what you're doing, because if you talk out loud, you're very often thinking out loud at the same time, hopefully, and thinking things that maybe you even deliberately avoided thinking about.
Well, we're obviously here to talk about pantomime, and the pantomime at the Alex in particular.
Yeah.
Have you got a history of attending pantomime when you were a child?
Yeah. In fact, some of the first pantomimes I ever went to were at Easter, would you believe, because pantomimes used to run for about 17 weeks when I was a lad. I'm talking about just before the Second World War. And we used to come over as a family from Nottingham, where I was born and brought up in my early years, to the Alex Theatre and the Theatre Royal Birmingham, which is alas no more, and the Hippodrome. We used to see all 3 pantomimes. And some of my earliest pantomime memories are of pantos in Birmingham.
And a lot of people seem to say that the pantomime is nearly always the child's first experience of the theatre, in which case it must have a long-lasting effect.
Yes, it is. It's also very often an excuse for parents to go to the theatre who normally don't go. Very often you get parents who use the child as an excuse and turn up and hopefully are reminded that the theatre is a very good place to go to. But there are lots of people who just go to pantomime and nothing else.
What have you been...
Appearing on children's television stopped me from doing any serious acting, which I know what he means. What he meant was I think what he meant was that I being classed as a children's performer. Well, of course, the reason I left Crackerjack was because there was a danger that was happening. And although people think of my theatre life as starting from my first days on television, which were Crackerjack and the Black and White Minstrel Show, nevertheless, I've been in show business. I've been in show business for 32 years, you see. I've only been in television for 19 years. So there was a hell of a lot of work before then. And yes, I had to leave Crackerjack because there was a danger of my being identified. In fact, even now, and it's 10 years since I did Crackerjack, not 2 or 3, 10, I can still go out onto a cabaret floor and some drunk will yell out Crackerjack. So I had to have a supply of pencils.
What were you doing before television came
Well, I was doing summer season and pantomime and review and cabaret and all sorts of things. And plays, repertory theatre, repertory work.
So appearing in pantomime is very much an ongoing thing for you?
It is, yes.
Many years, isn't it?
Yes, I don't do it every year like a lot of entertainers do. I use the word loosely. There are pros who do it year after year. Arthur Astley, for instance, has done, I think, something like 52 pantomimes. And at the age of 79, of course, you cannot think 52 in. But I've only done about 8. So I haven't really done them all the time.
But I assume you enjoy them, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I mean, it's such hard work, physically such hard work, that you've got to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's just real graft. I mean, you turn up. We're doing 12 shows this week, you see, because it's half term, and that's 2 3-hour shows a day. You clock in at 2 and you clock out at 10:30, and by that time you are shattered. The ideal pantomime is a sort of Christmas pudding full of every conceivable type of entertainment.